All right, this is part 2 of graphing f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're up to example 3. It says, tell whether the function f of x equals negative 4x squared minus 24x minus 19 has a maximum value or a minimum value. Then find the value. All right, so if you remember, a, the leading coefficient, tells you whether the graph is a U-shaped graph or whether it's upside down. When it's negative, it's an upside down parabola. So if it's an upside down parabola, it's going to have a maximum value. So we have to find that maximum value. All right, if you remember from the notes, the maximum value comes from the y value of the vertex. The vertex is the turning point on the parabola. It's the highest or lowest point on the graph. And your x is your axis of symmetry, and the y value is the maximum or the minimum. So just like before, we have to find the axis of symmetry first, plug that in, and then find the y value that goes with that to find the vertex. So if you remember, x equals negative b over 2a. And then we simply plug in our values. So we have negative 4 is a. Let's go ahead and write that down. A is negative 4. B is negative 24. C is negative 19. All right, so negative b. B is negative 24. Common mistake is people forget that extra negative there. Remember, you're doing the opposite of b. And then 2 times a. A is negative 4. All right, so I'm going to have 24 over 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And so that's going to be negative 3. All right, then I have to evaluate for negative 3. So I have to find the y value. So I'm simply going to plug it back in. So y equals negative 4 x squared. So for x, I'm going to put in negative 3 minus 24 times x, and then minus 19. All right, again, order of operations tells us to do exponents first. So I'm going to have negative 3 squared. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. And then negative 24 times positive 3. Let's see, I believe that is negative 72. Let me check real quick. So that is positive 72. 2 negatives make it positive. 24 times 3 is 72. And then minus 19. And then 4 times 9 is 36. So I'm going to have negative 36 plus 72 minus 19. All right, so that's going to be negative 36 plus 72 minus 19 is 17. So our vertex is negative 3, 17. This is upside down, so we're going to have a maximum value at 17. Example 4. The suspension cables between the 2 towers of the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan form a parabola that can be modeled by y equals, where x and y are measured in feet. Estimate and interpret the minimum value of the function. All right, so you can see on the picture here, here is the suspension bridge, and you can see that it does form a parabola. So we're looking for the minimum value, which would be the vertex. More specifically, the y value of the vertex. Because remember, the x is the axis of symmetry. The y value is the maximum or minimum. In this case, the minimum value. All right, so we need x equals negative b over 2a. All right, so that's going to be negative. B is negative 0.37 over 2 times A. A is this long decimal here. 0.1234. All right, and I'm going to use the calculator. So you'll see that using your calculator is going to make it a lot easier to calculate these numbers here. So let's pull up the calculator and see what we got. So we're going to do negative times negative. I need a 0.37. And then I'm going to divide that. I'm going to put this in parentheses because we're multiplying. We just need to make sure that calculator does the order of operations. So 0.123498 and enter. All right, even though we're looking at this in feet, I'm going to go ahead and round this a little bit more exact since we've got so many decimals to plug in so that it'll make it a little closer on the next one. So I'm going to say this is about 1887.76. So 1887.76. All right, so it's about that much, and I'm just saying because I did round it. I don't want to round it to a whole foot just yet because we have to plug it back into the original function to find the minimum value. So we're going to have y equals 0.00098 times 1887.76 squared minus 0.37 times 1887.76 and then plus 552. All right, so definitely going to use the calculator for that as well. All right, so I'm going to pull up the calculator again and I'm going to type in the function. So I'm going to have 0.00098 times 1887.76 squared minus 0.37 times 1887.76 again, and then plus 552. All right, so you want to make sure you enter all of that in correctly, and if you do, you're going to get 202.77, but since we are rounding to feet, again, I rounded a little bit more exact. I rounded 2 more decimal places instead of to the whole foot on the x value, but for the minimum, y is the minimum, I'm going to round that to 203 feet. So it's going to be, so it says estimate and interpret the minimum value of the function. So the minimum value is about 203 feet. So that's the lowest point the cable is about 200 feet above the water. So you can see the water's below the bridge. You can see the suspension cable here, and it would be about 203 feet. So actually, instead of having an equal sign, that should say approximately. So let's change that because that is not an exact amount. We did round that. When we round it, we put the squiggly lines instead of the equal sign.